Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Miller. Every week, I chat with fascinating people from all walks of life in order to bring you knowledge, inspiration, and insight. If you enjoy the show, you can support it by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. This is the Jeremy Miller Podcast. Dude, you've done so many videos, and they're all so different.
Yeah, depending on who you ask, that's a really bad thing. But there are there's a lot of different stuff on there. Not all of it's great, but some of it is okay, which has allowed me to continue to do it. So.
Why do you think? Who would say it's a bad thing that they're all different?
Well, there's when you're on YouTube specifically. Actually, I think this applies to most like social media platforms, but when as a creator, you kind of want to have a, what's the word? Not like, I don't want to say aesthetic, but you want to have like a consistent look, and a consistent theme. And the consistent theme brings in, one, it brings in a specific type of person to watch, but then it creates that loyal following that's like very interested in that topic. So I'm trying to think of like creators that do it really well would be like Jake Carlini. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He builds stuff, but like every video is like, I built this thing, And so then there's like the general, there's creators like me, or, I guess similar to me, who create more just entertainment. And entertainment as like just a bucket is so huge, and it's kind of hard to create a loyal fan base by just doing entertainment. There's not as much like depth in my personality that people get to experience. It's more of just like funny guy doing funny thing. And so I think we've done that okay. Like the channel, we've been able to build it to 10 million subscribers, and like we've gotten millions of views on videos with just sort of the general entertainment bucket. But the problem is like, how do I create depth now with the audience? And so if you're talking to a creator, a lot of creators now, it used to be like sort of really niche on YouTube. Like you'd have go very niche, like talk about books or talk about, running or talk about climbing, whatever it is. But then with Mr. Beast, everything sort of broadened out. It was like, don't talk about anything specific. Be as broad as you possibly can, get as many people through the door, make a huge funnel at the top. But that is sort of like, I feel like for like creators like myself, it's like not the greatest. It's like, okay, that worked, but now you don't really have any loyal fans. It's just sort of like you got views. So there's definitely like two sides to it.
That's tough. I noticed like for myself when I started making content, when I kind of picked the niche of running, that's where it started to work, which is fascinating. But then, and now I can tell like now that I've got like a little bit more of a loyal audience and fan base, that I can go more broad and they'll kind of just follow like whatever I do. It's like Casey Neistat is a good example. Like I guess the theme is just vlog, but like day in the life, like everything he does is day in the life, which doesn't really have a specific theme.
Yeah.
But it works for him. And that's the thing I'm curious to get your take on. Like there's just so many ways to go about YouTube. Like you can go like the hard niche of like, what is the, like jerry rig everything. It's like, he just tears things apart.
Yeah.
Or
that's his only thing. That's all he does.
Yeah. And I would say like, even though your stuff is entertainment broadly, like, I feel like your niche is like your videos, even though they're all so different, they all have the same feel to them. So like, do you think that you have to have a niche like to make it work, or like?
No, I mean, definitely not. And like my story's I guess it's a little bit different just due to like the era of YouTube, right? Because like all these different creators were in different eras. Like Casey Neistat, for example, like he was sort of, I guess, one of the OG guys, not the only, but he's one of the OG like creators, if you will, on YouTube. And he did something that nobody else had done, vlogging every single day. But it was sort of like a traumatic experience of people going through his life every single day. And that bonded his loyal fan base, which allowed him to broaden and do whatever he wanted. He's still creative. It didn't mean he could just upload like a 1 hour shot of him doing nothing. Right. He still had to be creative, but people were interested in Casey. That doesn't really exist anymore, right? Like there's nobody doing the Casey Neistat vlog thing. And if they tried, it probably would fall flat on its face, because how can I be interested in you if I don't know anything about you? But Casey did that with his, hundreds of days of vlogging, and a few of them started to pick up, and then all of them did. And then it was like, who is this guy? And so I think it kind of depends on the era of YouTube that you're in. And I sort of started my channel around like the shorts kind of coming up. And so we made a lot of short form content, and we figured out, hey, we can get a lot of people through the door. I can get a lot of people to subscribe to my channel by making short form content. And it was a strategy that I think did work, but you still had to be good at making long form videos. And this is something that a lot of short form creators didn't really figure out. And that's not to throw anybody under the bus, or, you know, it's a hard game. Like, long form content is different than short form content. And there's a completely different strategy behind how to make a good long form piece of content versus short form. And even pieces that are completely missing from from long form. I'm messing this up. There's different things that you need to do and focus on, like the title and the thumbnail on a long form piece of content, that I think is like 80% of the work that you don't even have to think about with the short. You know what I mean? It's like not even in your brain. Like, title and thumbnail don't matter at all. It's just algorithm swiping. And as long as you have a viral piece of content, people are going to watch it. Now you have to integrate, like, okay, now I need a really good title and a really good thumbnail. If you don't have those, then it's not going to work at all. So yeah, it's just like, it's all interesting, but it's very like, I see YouTube as like these sort of like eras. Like, there's different eras of like time that that different types of content exist within, if that makes sense.
Dude, that's so interesting. I was watching this, it was a South by Southwest talk yesterday. It was on YouTube.
Okay.
And basically this guy went through this whole timeline of like the internet and social media from like Web 1 to Web 2. And I can't remember what he called each era basically, but like the social media side of things, where he called, I think Web 2 was like the follower, where like I think Facebook or YouTube created the subscribe button, and then it allowed you to like build an audience, and they followed you and they would see all your videos and all your content. But then when like TikTok came out, they created the like algorithm social media, where it doesn't really matter who subscribes to you or how many subscribers you have, because anybody can see your content now. And he basically, the name of the talk was like the death of the follower, because he's like, the follower count doesn't really matter anymore. It's just all about the algorithm, like how engaging you can make your content. And it sounds like, I mean, you just described that perfectly, basically. But what do you think the next step is? Like, if we're in this algorithm phase right now, where do you think we go from here? Do you know?
Dude, it is interesting. I mean, even as a long form creator on YouTube, it's very much that way now. Like, the algorithm based feed, you get fed basically videos that the algorithm thinks you're gonna like. It's not so much your it's not so much who subscribed to you at all. And it used to be like, go to your subscriptions, watch those videos. You almost didn't watch any, like, I don't remember like watching anything that was fed to me 10 years ago on YouTube. Right. I would always just go to my subscription feed. But that just doesn't exist anymore. Like, people don't click on this. They go to their homepage, whatever's on the homepage, they might click on and watch. So I guess what happens next? I mean, honestly, it feels like we go deeper down that like algorithm based content, which means the competition is going to be more difficult, right? Because you're really going to have to focus on having a really good hook at the beginning of every video and then delivering on that. So there's like different strategies, even with the intro to the video versus the meat of the video, all these different things that we have to take into account when we're creating a piece of content, which I think do apply to short form as well, but it's just magnified when you're looking at a long form piece of content. You're not looking at just 30 to 60 seconds. Now you're looking at, 5 to 10 minutes. And I also think viewing behavior, as what we're being told from YouTube, is it's getting longer, which is good, but people are sitting down at the TV and watching it on the TV. In fact, I think Colin and Samir released, I saw a screenshot from them recently about basically Netflix data versus YouTube data. And at this point in time, I think the last couple of months, YouTube's been more viewership than even Netflix on a TV.
Oh, whoa.
So people are sitting down on the couch watching, YouTube videos. And so there's like, it's tough because we're hearing multiple things. And like, we're hearing from YouTube that, oh, maybe we'll go away with the thumbnail and the title. Maybe long forms will be like shorts, and you'll just be entered into a long form and there's no title, no thumbnail. You're just watching a video now. But I don't know what that experience is like if you're on the couch. That feels pretty weird. It makes more sense on a phone, but
that would be fascinating. I mean, it'd be so easy to do. It's like, you open up TikTok, as soon as you open it, you're on a video. Like, you didn't click on anything. It just instantly. And YouTube the YouTube app on my phone. Not every time, but sometimes as soon as I open the app, it just puts me into a short. And I think it'd be so easy to do that with long form. That'd be so interesting. Has most of your 10 million subscribers, which is insane, has most of that come from the shorts, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, if I had to guess, probably 90% of that came from shorts. Well, this is like, I have eras on my own channel, right? of like different times. It feels like time stamped, but like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, we were, doing this. It was a series kind of where I was trying to pass the rock in subscribers. And at the time when we started talking about it on shorts, I think I had a little over 1 million subscribers. And then it was like, oh, let's pass the rock, which he had 6.5 million. And so, I mean, it was less than a year. We went from 1 million to 6.5 million just by telling people like in every short, like, hey, we're trying to beat the rock, and then the short was sort of like made to, the whole thing was around that call to action.
Yeah.
And so, we had shorts with over 500,000 subscribers on just one short. Whoa. In multiple of those, where if it went super viral, which I feel like we were really good at the time of like making a very viral piece of content on YouTube, then all of a sudden the subscribers were flooding in. So yeah, there's a huge percentage of them are from from shorts.
Dude, that's so crazy. But how long do you feel like it took you to develop that kind of, like, would you say you have kind of a formula now for this piece of content's going to go viral or this one's going to do well? Like, would you say you have a formula for that?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you what it is.
Well, I'd love to hear it.
The formula is actually quite simple. And I think if you make short form content, whether you know that you do it or not, I think you figure it out eventually. But our formula for a viral short, which we sort of figured out pretty early on when shorts came out, was to have a visual hook and to have an audible hook at the beginning of every short. So, you're scrolling content, you only have, a few tenths of a second to grab somebody. And so that's true on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And so for us, it was like, what can we do that's visually immediately engaging? Like you're scrolling and boom, you get caught on Isaiah Photos channel. Something that immediately grabs your attention visually, but also something audibly that I say that's like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. So we can't just, be pleasing to the eye. We also have to have like a message that we can deliver on at the end. Mm-hmm. So whatever I do say that I'm going to do, now I got to do it. So, having a viral concept is like having something that the mass audience is going to be interested in pretty much immediately. So every idea had to be that. And we've implemented in tons of different ways because, we have short form videos that are like kind of crack cocaine for kids, if you will. Like how many licks does it take to get to the center of a jawbreaker? I mean, even as an adult, I'm like, all right, tell me how many. Like, yeah. I got to see this video. And so we would film a video like that. But then we also have videos like I'm going to wear a pair of Crocs for a marathon. Not only did the long form piece of content work really well for that, but the short form did too, because immediately if I'm holding up a pair of Crocs for a short and I'm like, today I'm going to run a marathon in Crocs and I'm at the Chicago Marathon, I think 90% of people are like, okay, yeah, I kind of want to see how that goes down.
That's so fascinating. So I'm curious, I've kind of learned this, I guess, through my own experience, but like, okay, it's a lot easier said than done to have you got the visual hook, you got the audio hook, but that can mean anything, right? Like, how do you determine this visual is going to hook people in, or this audio hook is gonna hook people in? Like, what's your test for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the visual hook is like, a lot of times we use motion. So, if I'm holding the pair of Crocs, it's like coming away from the camera, and then all of a sudden, or maybe I'm standing on a mountain, like something that's like immediately visually engaging, which is, it's like we're sort of playing with people's brains, right? Because you're like, I need to give you dopamine immediately. Yeah. So how can I do that? Something visual, even if you're an adult. I mean, kids, obviously, it's easier to do. But like, even if you're an adult, if you're doing something with motion, like all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, so this thing's moving. So we would use motion quite a bit. Or I'd be like, we'd like spin the camera, something engaging in that way. And then the audio hook is really just me telling you something that's unbelievable. because nobody believes that I'm going to lick a jawbreaker all the way to the center. You don't believe that. And so you're willing to stick around to see if I actually do it. Or like, I'm trying to think of other examples. I mean, there's a million of them.
I think one of my favorites I saw was how many tablespoons to fill up a bathtub.
Yes. Yeah, that has a lot of views. Or like, how long does a lighter last for? I think
Yeah.
that has 94 million views. It's like, how long does a lighter last for? I click on that. So I'm saying that I want to find that answer, and I'm clicking on the lighter. So you're seeing me immediately deliver on the promise of like, I want to know how many, or like with the bathtub, it's like, you know, I have the tablespoon thing and immediately I'm dumping it into the bathtub. So I'm delivering on what I'm saying. So as a viewer, you're like, I can trust this guy and he's doing something that I just don't think he's going to, like, it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then you end up watching the whole video and you're like, wow, he actually did it. And that's the number. Well, that's kind of silly, but you know, then at least I'm not like fooling people. Cause if I didn't deliver, then I think you just end up with, it's clickbait for one.
Yeah.
And the audience is just going to be unsatisfied and probably not come back for another. You're going to get a ton of rage comments. So it's like there's strategy for sure.
How do you go about like the ideation process seems like probably the most important of all this, right? And maybe let's just stick with like the short form stuff. We can go into like thumbnails and titles later, but short form stuff, what's your process? Like, do you have a notes app in your phone of like, I don't know, you're out at the grocery store and you're like, oh, this is good, I should do this. Like, you just randomly think of an idea and write it down? Or do you guys have like brainstorm sessions, or what's this look like?
A little bit of both, I suppose. Like sometimes I am like, I'll be walking or doing something. I'm like, oh, this is a good idea. Write it down. But a lot of times it's just me. I have 2 employees. So it's me. We do weekly meetings every Monday. And so we're on a call and, hey, we need 3 shorts this week. What kind of ideas do we have? And so many of these, if you go and look at my channel, so many of these ideas are copy and paste like ideas. So when we first started, it was like learning to do something. So I would learn to like throw knives or learn to break a brick with my bare hands or, you know, anything that seemed difficult, I would try to do. And then it turned into how many. So our bucket was how many X to X. So it was like how many tablespoons to fill a bathtub, how many, you know, how long does an air horn last for, how many licks to the center of a jawbreaker, which we then used for tons of different candies because we're like, oh, this popped. How many other candies can we do? You know, how many swipes of a Sharpie till it's empty? So a lot of like how many X to X was like a bucket, and then you can just copy and paste. All of a sudden you have 100 ideas. So I do think finding buckets that you can create within is really helpful. And if you have 2 or 3 of them, then you have infinite ideas that you can just keep like recycling through. Because people like familiarity. You think of like a TV show. Like, what's your favorite TV show?
Probably The Office.
The Office. It's like the same episode
Every
over
time.
and over again, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and you know what's going to happen. But that's what makes it so fun and you love it. And it's the same for every TV show. Seinfeld, like any sitcom is like the same episode. My wife and I are watching White Collar right now. Same episode over and over again. It's like there's nothing different. It's a formula. And that's what TV does really well. And I think if you're a good YouTuber, you probably do the same.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like music too. Like pick any artist, most of their songs sound so similar to one another. Like they have that distinct sound, but they're all different enough that it keeps you hooked and engaged. I guess that makes the same sense for YouTube content.
Yeah, we like familiarity.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about it that way because my creative brain is always like, how do I make this as different as possible so I'm not boring people? But I think people like the consistency and the familiarity. That makes sense.
It's the curse of like any sort of creative endeavor, I think. And I mean, I've noticed for myself is that desire to be different. And after a while, if you do the same thing, even if it's doing really, really well and you're getting 20 million views each video, you do eventually get burnt out from just doing the same thing. And then you're like, how do I get creative and change it? And oftentimes I have found that's when the views start to really dip. So it's like
when you start to change.
Yeah, when you start to change, because people kind of just want to see the same thing, which is pretty weird.
That's so interesting. I've noticed that within my own content, without a doubt. Man, it's hard though as a creative to like keep just doing the same thing, even though it's working.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you combat that then?
Well, once you change a few times and and things go downhill, then you realize you're like, I should really just keep doing the same thing. But I do think it's just finding things that you like about it, probably, you know? And like, I think being a YouTuber is like the coolest job right now. And I love making videos. So it's like finding like, okay, I love making videos. So stop complaining This is great. And it's not that I don't like the type of content that we make. I really do. And each era has been super fun to go through. But I do think you sort of change over time. Your interests change. And maybe you, like right now we're making a lot of running content. And so it's like things kind of shift a little bit. But like you said earlier, like a lot of our videos do still feel the same. So I do think like trying to bring the familiarity in, even if the title and the thumbnail are slightly different to what people might expect from us, still trying to keep like a very consistent theme. Like it's still the same Isaiah. He hasn't changed. It's not him sitting in a room necessarily talking, to a camera. It's still outside, still doing hard activities, those kind of things.
Yeah. Dang. This is so fascinating, dude. Dude, people are gonna love this. I love this.
All the YouTubers that watch you, or all the people that want to do YouTube.
There's got, dude. I mean, it's like the dream job. Like, who doesn't want to just be a YouTuber for a living? Okay, now long form stuff. This is very different. It sounds like
it is very different.
How does your approach change for maybe the ideation of creating a long form video?
Yeah, it's a lot harder. And I mean, if you look at my channel, you'll just see that there's been like so many, like you said, there's so many different pieces of content. And I think that, it depends on who you ask, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think the beastification of YouTube has definitely affected the way that I look at videos. And then I look at other channels that I'm like, how do we be more like that? So there's a lot of trying to take outside influences and using them in like things that I find creatively fun to watch, implementing into our own videos, but also being myself, which has honestly been a really hard thing to do on YouTube for me. Because I think as we were starting to make long form content, I sort of, and it probably a part of my shorts experience, but I sort of turn on this like entertainer version of myself. And it's not necessarily like the most honest or true version of me. And so that complicates things as well. And it makes it more difficult to build depth with my audience. And that's something that I think we've struggled with long term. And that's something we've been trying to combat this year. So definitely a lot of strategy around which ideas we pick that we can build more depth. And
he just loves you.
The dogs love me. And so, yeah, it's like, how do we pick ideas that are on brand, which for me right now, and I think historically, if you look at the channel, are like challenge-based videos. So bigger sphere is challenge, and then we can like find smaller buckets within challenge. Like, is it a running video, or is it a food challenge? Is it an experience type of challenge where I'm like experiencing something that's difficult, not necessarily me doing something physical. And there's been a lot of different variations of that on the channel as time has gone on. But yeah, ideation for a long form is much more difficult. But the main two things that we look at are title and thumbnail. And we try to start with that. That hasn't always been true for me, which is usually when a video does terrible, because I'm like, I get so excited about an idea. Like, for example, we filmed a video the first video we filmed this year was in marathon, 1 mile every hour for 26 hours.
Oh, wow.
And in my head, I was like, this is such a cool challenge. People are going to want to watch this. And somebody else has already done it on YouTube. His name's Bo Miles. He did it a few years ago, and it worked out really well for him. So I was like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's do it. The content, the actual meat of the video is really good. It's fun to watch. I think it's a great video. My editor did a fantastic job. My filmer, Isaac, did a fantastic job. And I just think the challenge was fun to watch. However, the title and the thumbnail is really difficult for that video to get people to click on. It's really hard to explain in short, like in a short sentence. I'm running a marathon every hour, or 1 mile every hour. It's really hard to make that sound intense and also to get people to click on it. And then it's like, what's the thumbnail going to be? We tried so many. It's so difficult. Like, it's not as obvious as I ran a marathon in Crocs, which is one of our higher performing videos, where it's like, oh, all I need to do is show a picture of my feet being beat up next to a pair of Crocs, and people are going to want to click on that video. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Did you end up posting the video, the mile every hour?
Yeah, we did.
Hours?
Yeah, and it did not perform that well.
Oh, dude, I heard, I think it was Mr. Beast on a podcast. I think it was when he was on Rogan maybe a couple years ago. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anybody say, yeah, we make the title and thumbnail before we ever shoot anything. And I'm like, my whole mind was blown. I was like, what? Because I just love the like storytelling and documenting. Like I never, the thumbnail and title were always last. Like I would make the title and thumbnail as I was uploading the video. Like it's literally 20% uploaded and I'm like, what am I going to call this video? It's like obviously not the ideal way to go about it. It sounds like.
Yeah.
When you guys are, do you have like a test system of like, because I know on, what is it, TubeBuddy, you can do like A/B testing with thumbnails and titles. Do you guys ever use tools like that? Or how do you determine like, I ran a marathon in Crocs versus, I don't know what an alternate title could be.
Yeah.
Should I, how far did I make it running in Crocs
Right.
at the marathon? I don't, you know what I mean? But
Right.
like alternate titles and thumbnails, like how do you go about testing those?
Yeah, so, that's a good question. So there are obviously tools. You just mentioned like TubeBuddy. I don't personally use TubeBuddy. Not that it's a bad tool, but I'm sure it's great. But we test in real time most of the time, and YouTube actually has a tool that's in beta right now. It's called A/B testing, and some creators have it, some do not. I am one that does not. So YouTube
That's
just
weird.
Yeah. Well, they pick their favorites. But I'm not one of them. But so some creators have it where basically this tool will be available. YouTube has said by the end of this year for everyone. But essentially you upload 3 thumbnails and YouTube basically tests those 3 thumbnails with a ton of different audience groups as it's giving it impressions. And as it's doing that, it will choose the best thumbnail for the video. But the metric that I believe they base it off of is viewer duration. So it's not even click through. It's how long are people watching the video? Because, I mean, we have to remember the only reason, or the main metric that YouTube cares the most about is how long can we keep people on this app?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that thumbnails will eventually just be gone and titles will be gone. And you'll just be fed videos that people watch for a long time, which is, it's great if you're good at making videos. It's bad if you're great at making thumbnails, right? So thankfully, we're bad at making thumbnails. So hopefully that helps us out in the future. But so for us, that was long-winded. But for us, we basically we will make a few different thumbnails and we will just like test them like the first day, second day, third day until we find the one that really hits. And sometimes it's like not until like a week later we find like the perfect thumbnail. But I think it's one of the things you can change. You can change your thumbnail and title on YouTube. And so it's worthwhile to do if you have a really low click through to just like keep changing it until you find the one that sticks, which is potentially a controversial statement. Some YouTubers would not do that, but we're very comfortable with changing the title and thumbnail as many times as we absolutely need to in order for it to hit.
Have you found a formula for titles and thumbnails? Like, is there, because I noticed on your channel for titles, every title starts with I did something or I XXX. It always starts with I. It's like less than like 8 words roughly or something like that. I'm guessing there's a formula you guys have for that.
Yeah, we do keep it short enough that you can see it on the phone when you're scrolling. Because eventually, if it's too long, there'll be like a ... I think it's 64 characters. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's somewhere around there. But we always make sure that it's shorter than that because if YouTube cuts off your title, you don't want that to be a reason somebody doesn't click.
Yeah.
So we do keep it short enough so that there's no ... And a lot of times it's in action, right? It's like I tried or I did or I survived. I survived was like a huge part of the channel for a long time. We haven't done too much of that lately, but a lot of like I tried or those kind of things. So like me doing something. And then for the thumbnails, we do not have a formula for that. We are like, I feel like our channel is like infamous for just constantly changing the thumbnail. I just talked to a brand like 2 days ago that was like, yeah, we saw you like that did a sponsorship. Like we saw you change the thumbnail like 7 times. Like it seemed like it worked. I was like, yeah, it does eventually.
What do you think, like the thumbnail, is there trends? I mean, obviously if we knew, then everybody would have YouTube figured out, but like, I guess what trends do you see that seem to work better? Have you noticed anything?
Yeah, there's definitely like a meta, right, for like YouTube in terms of like a lot of realism is like popular right now on thumbnails. So like it mostly starts at the top and then it goes down, right? So like Jimmy, his photos are like very much like realism and like
they're
they're almost
cartoony.
they're really cartoony. And for some reason, they just work. And so a lot of YouTubers now will try to make thumbnails within that sort of like category of like cartoonish realism sort of. I don't like that as much. So we try not to do that as much as possible. But sometimes it's like, it almost feels like the only way to really get the point across for like what the thumbnail we're trying to do. And so a lot of times it's like multiple assets. We try to take the real thumbnail in person. So there's a few of the thumbnails that look like they're like completely not like our images, but they are. So it's like we do try to take as much of the thumbnail as possible on our own and then sort of smush it together. But sometimes it's one photo, sometimes it's like 6 photos that we took.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some on yours. I think there's one, I can't remember the name of the video, but it was like you're like hiding behind a tree and you're like looking over your shoulder or something.
Yeah, Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Bigfoot one. And I was like, dude, like some incredible Photoshop work goes into some of these.
Yeah, my editor Dave is really good at Photoshop and he does all of the thumbnails.
Okay.
So
you have 2 employees. Does one just do like thumbnails and then one just edits the videos, or what does that look like?
So I have my partner Dave. He's basically helped me start the channel like years ago. He lives in the UK, so he's him and I have worked together for a really long time. He lives, like I said, he lives in the UK, so we don't really get to see him as much unless we're traveling. But he edits all the long form videos as well as make the thumbnails. And then one of my best friends works for me. His name's Isaac, and he lives here in Austin as well. And he does all of the filming and he edits all the shorts. So he's like specifically shorts as well as filming all the videos. And then Dave is specifically doing the thumbnails and all the long form editing.
Interesting. What was your decision to like hire them on as like a full-time employee rather than just have contractors basically, or people? Because I have like a thumbnail team I just started working with, but like I pay them a few $100 a month, and obviously they work for probably 30 other people.
Yeah.
Like what was the decision to bring them on full time?
I think like for Dave, we had just been making the videos already together so much, like he was editing them all, that it made sense to be like, hey, and he takes a cut of the channel. So like he just takes an overall cut. And so it was easier for me to just be like, hey, you help me with the videos. As the channel grows, we both grow, right? In terms like of finance and those things. So that's his. And then Isaac, he makes a salary. And the reason I brought Isaac on was just, it's hard to, it was beginning to be difficult to film everything on my own and then upload it for Dave to edit. It was like getting kind of difficult as we were growing and the ideas were getting more complex. And so it made sense to have somebody in-house that could film as well as like help ideate, like all those things. And so Isaac was kind of perfect for it because he was looking for something different and he was working at a church in Minnesota at the time. And I was like, bro, this is perfect. You come work for me and we'll film videos. It'll be super fun. And he's really into filmmaking. And so it actually ended up being really, really great. So,
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's have you experienced, I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but like on their side, like creator burnout? Because I know like when I worked at BPN, I got burnt out because I was just doing Nick's content. And I've done other things where like I was full-time for like this one agency and it was the same like 2 clients that we worked for. And it was just like the same stuff over and over and over again. I got so burnt out. Whereas like when I did freelance and I worked for like 10 different clients, it was always something kind of different. Have you guys experienced that at all? Or like your people, you think?
Not something that's been like vocalized to me. So it would kind of be news if I heard that from them. But they also have opportunities to work on their own stuff too. And we live in such a creative community where we're also helping other creators. Like I'm friends with so many YouTubers and we oftentimes will ideate together. It'll be like, hey, this person will be like, hey, what do you think of this thumbnail? Or what do you think of this title? And then, 10 people on this text thread that are like, oh, you could do this or that. You could make it better this way or that way. So I think that helps like kind of keep things like different. But also Isaac and Dave both have their own YouTube channels and they both upload to those ones periodically. So they're not being kept from being able to work on their own thing. So I think that helps as well to help hopefully just keep them like creative and excited to keep making videos.
If you're willing to share, what does a channel with 10 million subscribers bring in through ad revenue on YouTube?
It kind of depends on the month. I would guess that like, it also totally depends on the creator because there are creators that have 10 million subscribers that I'm certain make much more than I do in terms of AdSense. And there are that make much less than I do in AdSense. But I think last year in 2023, on AdSense alone, the channel brought in probably around 400,000 in AdSense. But we also just have, you do this. It's like one month it's great, and then one month it's not so great. And then, so to help even that out, you have like sponsorships, sometimes teaching engagements or something like that help bring in money elsewhere, and also other platforms as well. Because it's like we still got TikTok, we got Instagram. So yeah.
Yeah, and the shorts, they count for monetization, but not really, right? It's like a very small percentage.
Yeah, they make, I think right now the average is like 11 or 10 cents per 1,000 views. So
I guess if you have a short with 100 million views,
exactly. Yeah, it's worth something, right? Okay. So yeah, I mean, we have shorts that have made, I think over $5,000 for a short, which is a decent amount of money for a short. I don't think any of the other platforms even come close in terms of how much you can get paid out. So even though it is not great, it is better than a lot of the other platforms. And I've been hearing from YouTube that the plan is to continue to get that money up, like to get that number up as high as possible. And I think there are some ways in the next few years that YouTube will be implementing, hopefully, that make it even more sustainable to be just a short form creator. Although I know that YouTube wants everybody to be hybrid. They don't want just shorts and just long form. They want everybody doing both. So we'll see what happens. But if short form creators can make as much as long form creators, in my mind, after doing both of them, it doesn't really make sense to be a long form creator. Because it's a lot more work. Yeah. And it costs a lot more money, generally speaking, to make a long form piece of content than it does a short form piece of content. It's so much more time. If you could just make shorts and make as much as a long form creator, then I think everybody would.
Yeah. Do you think that long form will always be around?
I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe for TV behavior, like viewership, it seems like it would, but maybe that number of people that are making long forms gets smaller and smaller because the best will just stand out. I don't know.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I feel like there's always going to be, like the hipsters, they're like, oh, I still watch 10-minute videos. Or it's like, people that still listen to record players or something, even though it's like such an outdated technology. Or, people that still listen to this hour-and-a-half long podcast.
Are you comparing long-form YouTube viewers to like people who listen to records? They're outdated.
No, maybe in like 10 or 15 years, potentially. I don't know.
You're just old if you watch a long YouTube video, you're old, man.
I mean, it just seems like that's where people's attention spans are going, right?
It's I don't know. I mean, I look at a lot of channels and I see different viewing behaviors on all of them, kind of. I don't think that I think on average, we keep about 5 minutes probably of attention on a video. We've had videos that have 7 to 8-ish minutes on a longer video, but there are creators that can hold 15 minutes of attention and for like 10 million views. So I think it depends on the creator and how good you are at that. Maybe that just comes down to storytelling, who you are. There's so many metrics that matter.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I know one formula that I've kind of seen in Drew, and Drew would agree to this, but we talk about it all the time, like the ultra marathon documentary. Simply putting that in the title of a YouTube video, it like guarantees like 50,000 views for like no matter the size of your channel.
Yeah.
Which I mean, 50,000 views for you would be nothing. But like my most viewed video on my channel is it's an ultramarathon documentary, and when I uploaded it, I think I had like 1,000 subscribers, and I think it's at like 700,000 views or something.
Dang.
And that was before my channel ever hit like 10K. It was like at this tiny channel. But I think because the watch time on it's like 15 or 16 minutes on a 50-minute video. But I think it's, because it's people go into it knowing it's not an Isaiah Photo 10-minute like entertaining video. Maybe it's like, oh, it's a 50-minute documentary. So they're willing to put it on their TV and sit down and watch it. So I don't know. Maybe there is always going to be some desire for that.
I think I can only speak to my own experience really as a viewer too, but like as a person who likes watching running videos, I do think it's like watches and running are like the two types of content that I consume on YouTube. And 90% of the time it's on the couch, and I sit down and watch like Sally McRae, and I watch I'll watch your video that's, an hour long. I like watching like a longer video on the couch about running or about watches. And like some of those topics are easier to get more in depth about, like it's not just pure entertainment either. There's like a real story here. So it does feel like you're watching a movie, or like in the title, the documentary,
Right.
it's an ultra documentary. So I would imagine most people that are watching those videos are also probably sitting on their couch and maybe with a couple friends, like, oh, Jeremy just ran a 100-mile race. Like, let's watch this documentary. It's going to be sick. But I imagine, I haven't seen that video, but I imagine that you delivered on the title and the thumbnail of like, it was probably really well edited and it felt like a documentary.
Right.
And so I think all those things matter as well. Because if it was just a long shot of you running, like,
Right.
people would be like, this sucks.
Have you done anything like that? Like, have you ventured off the like entertainment, that like kind of really engaging type of content that you do? Have you tried any like documentary style or more cinematic kind of stuff like that?
No, that's really scary.
Really?
Yeah, that's really scary.
What's scary about it? Because it's unknown.
Yeah, and I feel like, it's my own, like, it's just me talking to myself, but I feel these expectations of like a channel of our size, the types of videos we made in the past, these things that I'm thinking about when we're uploading. It's like, oh, are people going to think that I'm like a loser for wanting to run for 50 miles and then uploading a documentary about it? And then you start thinking all these things about yourself and like what other people think. And yeah, it's probably not true, but it definitely withholds me from like creating that style of content. So then it would be like, do we create a new channel to put that stuff on? I don't know, maybe.
Do you have any desire to do that? Or
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, what's stopping you?
Being too self-conscious.
Have you have you tested on the current channel? Like, I know that you're kind of testing with the running stuff right now. It's still the same style, but it's more, focused on running, like the Marathon and Crocs, the band shoes. What's the response been to that?
Pretty positive. However, like a lot of that is still like feels like pure entertainment. So like the Crocs is like, I'm at the Chicago Marathon. It's a, one of the world marathons or whatever. And so already it's like, oh, this is huge. And then I'm doing it in Crocs. That sounds stupid. Maybe I'll watch this video to the end. So there's like, there are factors to it. But if it's a difference of me being like, I ran the Tokyo Marathon. That as like a title and a thumbnail probably does really poorly on my channel. But I ran the Tokyo Marathon in high heels. Might do 10 million views because now all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? He's going to run it. And so there's like that aspect of it that makes it somewhat difficult. But I think like the last one we did was band shoes. That one we really tried to implement more of like my journey as a runner. And it was much more emotional towards the end because I was trying to hit a specific time goal that I didn't hit. And so for me, it was like, I think that allowed me to open up more to my audience. So we're looking for opportunities to do that more so that we can continue to build that depth and not necessarily the breadth. Because after hitting 10 million, it was kind of like, where do we go from here?
Right.
Do we keep trying to get more subscribers like that? I don't know if that's even necessary at this point. I feel like right now, let's try to build depth with the audience. So those are our goals right now.
Yeah, that's maybe a good segue into like what's like the ultimate goal with the channel? Like, maybe before we go into that, why did you start the channel to begin with? Like, what was the initial inspiration?
I think I don't know. I guess I'm somewhat of I think I myself as like kind of a dreamer, I guess. Just like, I don't know, want to do some things that don't feel like they fit the mold in terms of like, I can't really have a job and still do this. But I'm also a high school and college dropout. So I don't really have like work experience that's going to allow me to make, probably any more than $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And so for me, my wife was finishing up school and I still hadn't gotten a degree. And she wanted to do traveling PT stuff. And I had watched guys like Casey Neistat or Logan Paul, David Dobrik. And at the time in that era of YouTube where like vlogging was popular and those characters were popular on YouTube, they were all driving like Ferraris and, Lamborghinis and stuff and living in mansions. And I was like, man, they're making a lot of money. And I liked making videos. I made videos growing up with my brothers. None of them made it to the internet, thankfully, but we did make videos as kids. It was like a popular thing, I feel like, during our age.
Yeah. Were they like VHS or?
Yeah. Like the little cassette thing.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. So we made a lot of those. And they were just silly, but I think I was realizing that like, oh, this is an opportunity. And I think most YouTubers are opportunistic individuals. I think you are as well. I mean, the podcast, perfect timing, like the short form on Instagram, like you see like an opportunity and then it's like, oh, if I capitalize on that right now, it might work. And so for me, I was like, how do I be like these guys? So I was making vlogs that were terrible. Some of my videos did well, some did bad. And it took me like 2 to 5 years to build the channel to a point where I actually was making money off of it. But when I first started, I told my wife, I was like, give me 2 to 5 years. I'm going to try to do YouTube. And I was 25 at the time, so kind of too old to be making videos on the internet. At least that's how it felt. And I could feel the pressure of like family members being like, what is Isaiah doing? Like, why? Like, get a job. And we were traveling around quite a bit because my wife was doing PT, but in a traveling setting. So kind of like a traveling nurse. And we were living in different cities every 3 to 4 months. And yeah, eventually we were living in California and I started this series called Sand to Tesla on TikTok that garnered like 250 million views in total. And I did trade sand up to a Tesla in 8 months. And I traded it with a YouTuber in Atlanta named Harrison Neville. And that's sort of when I started to make the switch of like, okay, if I'm going to do this for real, TikTok can make some money, but I can make real money if I move to YouTube and I can make it like I can make a career out of this. And I still didn't have like any subscribers on YouTube. And that's when Shorts was coming around. Jimmy was the only one doing short form. And so I was like, I'm going to make Shorts. And then we blew the channel up and got it to where it is now.
Dang.
So, yeah.
So your first like social media attempt was on TikTok?
Yeah. I mean, it was actually YouTube. And then like YouTube, I was so bad at.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, rewind. I was so bad at YouTube at first. And then, people like Charli D'Amelio were like showing up. And all of a sudden she was in like a Super Bowl commercial, and I remember seeing her. It was like the hummus, I think, but she was in a Super Bowl commercial, and I was like, what the heck, a TikToker in a Super Bowl commercial? Maybe TikTok is like a viable option as like making money. And so I just started making TikToks, and we got really good at that, figured out the hook, the visual, and like the saying thing hook. And for me, it was like I was grabbing a cup of sand. This is like when we first started to figure this out on the beach. So the camera's starting low, it's coming up. I'm putting it up to the camera and I'm saying, I'm going to trade this cup of sand up to a Tesla. And so now all of a sudden you're like, no way. And then you'd watch to the end and we get 10 million views. So
interesting.
Yeah.
When did you start that series?
Oh, man, I was like right in the middle of COVID.
Oh, 2020. So not even that long ago.
Yeah. 3-4 years ago.
That's crazy. Do you still post on TikTok now?
Yeah, we do. Like the short form stuff we make on YouTube usually goes to TikTok as well.
How many followers do you have there?
3.5 million, I think.
I've heard from a lot of people that TikTok is dying. What do you think about that?
Well, it might just not exist soon. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Depending on what our government does with it. Honestly, I mean, I would be kind of down with it to just die.
Why do you say that?
I hate having to post to all these different platforms, and it is kind of annoying. And I spend no time consuming TikTok. So
yeah, me either.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody, at least our age, that really does. It seems like it's really the like Gen Z, the younger generation.
What do you consume most?
YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah. What do you watch on YouTube?
I've watched every one of Casey Neistat's videos.
Let's go.
A lot of.
That's the.
I love like philosophical stuff. So like
the tattoo.
The Work Harder. Yeah. Casey Neistat, dude. I like tech stuff. I'm like a nerd, like Marquez Brownlee.
Yeah.
Oh man. I should just pull up my algorithm. I love like Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
Chris Williamson, like podcasts. I watch a lot of podcast clips. That's probably the bulk of it. I'm a nerd. I like information.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, mostly for me, it's like, I mean, I consume most of my content on Instagram actually, which is like, it's mostly, I have like 2 topics that I pay the most attention to, and it's watches and running. I don't know. That's just like my current obsessions. So that's what I get fed the most.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I looked at my phone yesterday because we had some friends over, and it said that I spent 18.5 hours on Instagram last week. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I need to get off Instagram.
I don't even want to look at mine. Dude, Instagram, it blew up in the last couple of years. I think obviously the Reels was the game changer, but whatever they do with their algorithm, it's so good at like.
It's perfect.
Yeah. And
it gives you like all of like the different things. Cause like I grew up in a Christian home, so I like the little Christian memes that are really funny that I send to my friends. I like anything that has to do with Andrew Tate is really funny to me, like as a joke. And then I get served like Jordan Peterson stuff that I like.
Yeah.
I get served all the watch stuff, all the running stuff. They're all so different.
Yeah.
And like somehow Instagram knows I want all of it.
Yeah, dude, the algorithms, from a consumer standpoint, I think that shift to like an algorithm based feed instead of chronological or like subscriber or follower based feed, it makes so much more sense as a business for the platform and for the consumer. But for the creator, that's who obviously suffers, because you're no longer like competing to like get like entertain your follower. You're competing against other creators for attention.
Yeah.
And it's such a different approach to content. Like that was in that talk I was watching yesterday. I should send it to you. You probably love it. But he talks about like as a creative, it's just a totally different endeavor. Whereas as a creative, you should be trying to like make the best content you can make, not competing against other creatives. And so it kind of makes this weird environment, I feel like. But ultimately, it creates the best content because the best, most engaging, entertaining content goes to the top.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it's hard because as a creative, like I think I see a lot of creatives that like romanticize the process, which is beautiful. And I think of Casey Neistat is like probably like the top of that, like kind of romanticizing, like I like making videos and like I want to make them feel this way and I want to like show you this thing visually and stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're like me, where I have like a wife and a baby and a house, you still have to make money.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's a business, and the business side of things is like you have to please the algorithm. And so you kind of can't over romanticize it. And the people that do over romanticize it end up eventually disappearing because they can't make it, because they think that like, oh, YouTube, just show my video to the people that should watch it. But YouTube has an algorithm, and if you can't feed the algorithm, then you will die.
Yeah, that's a hard truth.
Yeah.
Especially if you are inherently like a creative and you maybe you started out in photography, you're doing freelance work and you really care about the story, like Casey Neistat, perfect example. Yeah. How do you like, do you find yourself like wanting to follow trends or not wanting to follow trends on maybe on like Instagram, like the trending audio or things like that? Or you're like, I have this creative vision, I want to see it through? Or it sounds like you're kind of more on like the algorithm side, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely on the algorithm side.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you want to grow, you have to feed the algorithm, in my opinion. I still think you can be creative. You can come up with concepts that work, that aren't necessarily that like you play off of like the greatest, like the things that you can deliver to the algorithm. So like, for example, in terms of Instagram, sometimes I will like see a reel that has like, you know, you see like the, like make your own kind of button. And then it, like all you have to do is put your clips in.
Yeah.
It's like if a video has like 10 million views and it has that on it, why would you not?
Right.
Like my video could get 10, like why would it takes me 3 seconds. I may as well put it together and like send it into the universe and hope for the best. But then there's also different strategies. Like, for me is like, these shoes are $300. Are they worth it? Cause that's like, all of a sudden you have that audio hook and visual hook that you need of like me pulling the shoes out of the bag. These are $300 shoes. Can they make me faster? There's a question involved that you want to know the answer to. So I can play off of other people's like minds, even of like, okay, if I saw that on a screen, I'm going to want to watch it through. So those different types of content that we can, or even saying like, I'm going to go on a 20-mile run. Is he? Like, I want to see if he's actually going to go on a 20-mile run. So there's like different ways that we can like, you know, use our creativity, but also feed the algorithm at the same time.
Do you approach Instagram, TikTok, YouTube differently at all? Or how do you go about that?
Well, TikTok is kind of like, I guess I don't anymore. I used to spend more time on TikTok just trying to like feed the algorithm. But now we just post whatever is from Shorts. But Shorts is definitely on YouTube is definitely different than what I do on Instagram, specifically because I think the audiences are different. I've grown a lot on Instagram based off of my running content, so I'm going to keep feeding it that, but it's more aged up. And so I think if I've tried to post a piece of content that worked really well on Instagram to YouTube, and it's just not as like snappy, you know? And like, I think YouTube needs like a snappier cut. Like it's more of like constant because I don't know, it's just the way that the algorithm is on YouTube is just slightly different.
Interesting. Have you ever posted like informative videos where it's like some of my top shorts on YouTube are like, do you have runner's knee? Here's how to fix it. Or has it always been pure entertainment?
Yeah, I've thought about this, but I don't want to be a source of information for people in terms of like, I don't want to, it's kind of a scary place to be. Like, and it's not that it's wrong for anyone, but like, I don't want to be the guy that's like teaching you how to do something. I just want to be the guy that's like doing the hard thing, if you will.
Yeah.
Like if it's a difficult thing to do, then I want to go and do it just because it sounds funny. And I also like to be funny on camera. I don't want to be the guy that's like, here's how you get faster while running. That's less interesting to me.
Right. I feel like your personality matches what you do. Like it makes perfect sense. Like you're just such a like funny, positive, like kind of goofy guy. And it makes perfect sense for your content.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I met you, I think it was in person, was at the Speed Project.
Okay, yeah.
Within like 2 seconds, I was like, dude, he's got the perfect voiceover voice. Because I knew you were going to be on our team, so I looked up your YouTube and stuff. And I was like, man, he's got a good voice. And then in person, I was like, this makes perfect sense. You've been gifted with the perfect short form voiceover.
I've done a lot of voiceover work.
You kind of talk the same though, like in person or on your videos. I mean, videos it's turned up a little bit, but it's very similar.
Well, I've definitely when we were first making short form content, I had to practice like vocal inflections on sentences, like kind of starting high and ending low, like on purpose. So there was a lot of times that like my editor would send me, like he would try to do this. And so, I mean, we definitely practiced quite a bit on trying to get like the perfect voiceover voice specifically for the videos. Hopefully that doesn't bleed into my real life because that would be weird.
Just walk around talking like that.
Yeah. It's like being a presenter at all times.
Yeah. Dude, when I first started, I'm so monotone. I'm like, this is how many miles I ran, and this is what food I ate, and it was just like,
I still
so bad.
I think it works though. Like. Yeah. Everyone's personality is different. Like, why wouldn't your voiceover be different too? And I think it's easy as a creator as well to like watch other people and be like, I need to do exactly that. But that's kind of when it gets really boring, right? Because everybody's just creating the same thing. They're copycatting each other, which will happen. But I think, the best thing you can do for yourself is just be yourself. And sometimes that's like an amplified version. Like you said, like, oh, I'm like a louder version of myself on shorts, which is true. When I'm sitting down for voiceover, it's like, I intentionally do get louder. But yeah, I think if you're amplifying your personality, that's fine. But I think trying to be somebody you're not, eventually that'll implode because your audience will see it and they'll be like, oh, that's not even him.
Yeah. It's not sustainable to do that. Dude. This episode's full of gems. I love this.
What's your goal on YouTube, Jeremy? What do you want to do?
Dude, I think I just want to have as much impact as possible. Like just broadly speaking across all.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, why do you want to have impact?
I think specifically impact in terms of getting people active and exercising. Because I've seen what that's done for me. Like just how, like all of my most favorite memories and moments I can think of in my life is when I'm doing something active, like running or TSP or running a marathon or I don't know, winning like state hockey or something. It's like anything that was active and especially with a team or friends. So I want to just encourage people, inspire people to do that. And I don't know, I feel like the world we've always dealt with it to some extent, but it seems like it's just exponentially getting worse with like mental health stuff of like suicides and depression and anxiety, and people are just not happy, it seems like, or maybe not everybody obviously, but I feel like exercise is one of the best things you can do to combat that. And so that's kind of my thing, is just make people happier, spread positivity, and do that through exercise and fitness and running. And it won't always be running. Like I'm sure I'll get into other things eventually, but yeah, that's my goal.
You're not gonna be a runner forever?
I mean, dude, I don't know.
What?
I think about this a lot, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because running is so boring.
Whoa.
But I question myself. I'm like, how have I not gotten bored of it yet? Because it's so boring. Like the act of going for a run, it by itself is probably one of the most boring things you can do. But I love it so much, and I don't know why.
You don't know why you love it?
I mean, I probably could think about it and give you a good answer, but
yeah, because you're running like a lot of races, and you're running long races.
I mean, the races are fun, but going out for a 10-mile easy run by yourself at
Mm.
like 5 a.m. isn't the most fun thing you could do. And a lot of times it's kind of boring. But I don't know, like, I don't know, triathlon, like that's more exciting. You get to swim and you get a bike, or I don't know, playing a sport, you're like, you have a ball or a team. It's like running, it's so repetitive and it's so lonely. But I haven't gotten bored of it yet.
I didn't expect to hear that from you.
Yeah. Do you not get bored of running?
No, actually, I think the more I do it, the more excited I get about it. It's crazy.
Really?
I've never been, I was telling my wife this the other day, but like, I have never been more excited about running than I am right now. And I don't know. The more I do it, the more amped I get for running. There's just something about it.
What's so exciting about it?
I think I might offer some pushback here. I think running is one of the more exciting activities that any one person could do, specifically because of the personal aspect that goes into it. Like, you are pushing yourself to potentially your limit, hopefully, on certain runs. You're pushing yourself to your limit to discover if you can go even just a little bit longer or further, or push even harder. And I think there's like, there's a transformation, maybe even on every run or on a specific run, but there definitely is a long-term transformation that I think is so like satisfying to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, and I see it first in my own life, but then if you see other people run, like I think it's contagious. Like, you get other people into running. Like, I was the only person in we do like a Sabbath dinner, like every Sunday after church and stuff with friends. And, I was kind of the only one running, like, for a while. And I was, I have these other guy friends that, they're into climbing or lifting or, different things like that. And now I think of like the core members of the group, there is one person who did not go on a run last week of like the 9 of us.
Dang,
And
that's cool.
It used to be just me. And all these people are now signed up for races. Like, the guys are signed up for 2 marathons that they hadn't ran at all 4 months ago.
Oh, that's
now,
cool.
not only are they running, they're signed up for 2 marathons next year. My wife and her friend are signed up for an ultra. One of the other guys ran an ultra with me like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. So it's like, I think there is like some contagious aspect of running,
definitely.
and seeing people achieve those goals is very satisfying.
Yeah.
Like, seeing people get faster, being able to run further is pretty cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's exciting. The idea of running is exciting, but I feel like when you're out there, it's so boring.
Okay. Well, on that topic though, of like, you might do it for a while, you might do something else later. I've been asking people this question. I may have actually already asked you this, but do you think that running is currently like becoming like incredibly popular, or do you think that we live in a bubble because we make content about running?
I think both.
Yeah, okay. That's how I feel too.
Yeah, I think we get probably a skewed version of what the general public does, just because we're in this kind of echo chamber of running content, and in Austin especially, like, it's like the hub of running right now. So I think that's one aspect, but I definitely think it's more, I mean, you just said like the people you're hanging out with at like your Sabbath dinner, now they all run.
Yeah.
Like, Bree hates running. Now she's running a half marathon. Her mom is doing a race. My mom's doing a race. Like, all these people that never liked running. And it could be, again, because like in our circle, but I think generally, and I think Strava put out some stat from 2023 that like more people than ever, like percentage wise, got into running or something like that. So
do you think it'll go down? Like, eventually it'll be less popular?
Like, less trendy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah. Because even like the jacked dudes run. You know what I mean? Like, all like the Nick Bears are out on the trail, and it's like, bro, what the heck?
Yeah.
I've never seen you run ever in my life, and now you're running like a 2:40 marathon.
Right.
That's crazy.
I think a lot of it has to do with social media, for sure. It's like trendy to get your running vest and make a little get ready with me running vlog and runner girlies and all that. But I think it's cool. Like, it's for something to like running to be trendy, I think is sick. And I think the gym has gotten super popular too. Like, again, all the like Instagram reels and YouTube shorts and all that stuff, people talking about going to the gym. I also think running right now, it reminds me, like, the aesthetic of it at least, is like what skateboarding was like 20 years ago. Like, did you see Bandits thing for Boston?
I didn't see it. No.
They like got this old kind of like white, it's kind of like a pedophile looking van.
Okay.
But they like no windows, just like a white van. But then they spray painted the whole thing like graffiti Boston, and it looked like skateboarding. It was like very punk rock kind of thing.
Dude, it is kind of getting like running's getting
Yeah.
kind of punk rock.
Yeah, and like Satisfy. I mean, is that a Satisfy shirt?
This is Satisfy.
I knew by the holes. The Moth Tech.
It's the Moth Tech. It's better. No.
But I think it's got like that edginess to it too, which is cool.
Mhm.
So I hope it stays around. What do you think? Do you think it'll be?
Yeah, I mean, everything goes in waves, but I think at least for the foreseeable future, it's getting more and more and more popular, which is great. It is just crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Like, is it actually that popular? And I mean, it is. There's more people running than ever before. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I guess I like it.
Yeah.
But it also makes it more complicated if you're like trying to go run a race or something. Like somebody texted me 2 months ago and was like, "Hey, do you want to do Grandma's?" And then I looked it up and I was like, "Grandma's is sold out."
Really?
Which is like a random marathon in Duluth.
It's not till like
Minnesota.
June.
Yeah. And that was the first marathon I ever did. And you could walk up to the race the day of and get like an entry if you wanted,
Wow.
which is just kind of crazy. Like
That's
races
nuts.
sell out now.
Yeah, dude, especially in like the ultra world. I think trail running. I heard, Molly Seidel.
Yeah.
She's like a pro runner for Puma. I heard her on a podcast the other day. She said trail running right now is what road running was in the 70s. It's like it's like not quite there yet, but there's like kind of the obscure group of people that do it. But give it like 20 years and it's gonna like blow up.
It's going to go crazy.
Yeah, I think running is like definitely trendy.
There's something
cool.
just so cool about putting on a pair of shoes and letting your feet take you to wherever you're going, even no matter how long it is, 100 miles, 200 miles. Somebody commented on my Strava the other day and they're like, "Hey, come pace me for Cocodona." And I was like, "What the?"
Are you gonna
no.
do it?
No.
200s are crazy, dude. Would you ever do one of those?
Oh yeah, I would.
Really? Of
Yeah.
course you would.
The funny thing is it Cocodona you could just sign up for?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no
Yeah.
prerequisite. It's just like, if you want to do it.
Yeah, I think that's how the destination trail, that's like Moab, Tahoe, Bigfoot, those are all the same. Now they have the Monster 300. They just came out with that one in Arizona.
And you can just sign up. There's no like prereq or anything.
Nope. As long as you got $1,500
That's crazy.
and a set of balls.
Yeah, no kidding. 300. Would you do one?
I don't know. I paced Pierce because he did the Triple Crown. I paced him at Tahoe for like 65 miles. And I'm like, at the moment I was like, I think I'm good. I don't think I want to do one of these. But we'll see. After I do this first 100-mile race, I might change my mind. But
Yeah. There's something just about seeing like how far can I go?
at that point though, it's also so much walking that like you're not running much of it, but it is the idea of just moving your body for 5 days is pretty insane to me.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
I don't know. You would do one though.
Yeah, I would. So your next big race is 100 miles?
Yeah, in June. You've got 100K. Is that this weekend?
Next weekend.
Next weekend.
And
it's Canyons.
Canyons, yeah.
It's a mountainous one, right?
We'll see what I can do. 11,000 feet of gain.
Is this the longest you've gone?
This will be the longest. Yeah. I did a 50 miler as training for this. And that one was the longest. But so I got 2 races out of it, which felt kind of cool. Like with the training block and then we did TSP, but
Yeah.
not a traditional race, but still like hard. And then, this will be the longest one yet. I definitely do want to do a 100 miler. I don't know if that'll happen this year. Probably not this year. Cause I really want to run a fast race in the fall. So I'd like to do Chicago and really just run as fast as I possibly can. So I think that would be like a pretty intense training block through the summer. So probably no more ultras after this one. At least that's what I'm saying now. We'll see. But next year, 100 miler would be sick.
Are there any you want to do?
Probably too many. I don't know.
Which one do you think you would sign up
I
for?
want to do Leadville.
I think I might do it next year.
Yeah, Leadville would be really fun. I know Matt Choi is doing Leadville this year.
Leadville is actually, it's 100 miles, and I haven't done it, so I can't say fully from experience, but it's not too hard.
Yeah?
It's very runnable. There's the hardest part is that you're at elevation, like you're 10,000 feet. So if you're not used to that, if you've never done that,
Right.
that can be hard. But the course itself is like pretty easy.
Yeah. My top is Mont Blanc. Like I want to go and do the World
yeah.
Series for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that thing that'd just be so sick. Which actually, funny enough, is why I'm doing canyons next week. Because you get like double stones by doing canyons because it's like their regional whatever race. So it's not just 3. I'm going to get 6 entries. And I think I'm going to put them all in on Mont Blanc next year. So who knows? Maybe next year I get to run Mont Blanc. That'd be crazy.
Dude, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
That might be one of my top
Yeah.
bucket list races.
Western States. You want to do that one?
Western States. You get a run on the part of the course,
I'll
right?
be on part of the course for this race. But I would like to run the actual Western States.
Yeah.
And, if I win golden ticket, I'm not going to win.
I mean, Western States is that's like the OG 100-mile race.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gordy Ainsley. Do you know that story?
No.
It was in the 80s, I think. It was a horse race, a 100-mile horse race, and he just showed up. I think his horse got sick or something, and he's like, "I'm just gonna see how far I can go on foot." And they're all just like, "Okay." And then I think he made 80 miles or something, and then quit. And then he came back the next year, intentionally without a horse, and did it.
He's like, no, I don't need a horse.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
That is cool.
And then that's why most of the 100-mile races have belt buckles, because they were all horse races. A lot of them were originally, and now they just kind of kept it. But
crazy,
dude, that'd be sick. Man, what are you gonna run for your marathon? You think?
I would
240.
Anything under 250 would be awesome.
You could do that.
My Coro says I could run a 246, but I don't think I
faster.
believe it. I don't know. We'll see. My problem is I do fall apart at 18, mile 18, and I think it would take some serious training through the summer. But I mean, my ultimate goal would be hopefully by the end of next year to be under 240. I'd like to be in the 230s by the end of next year. I don't know if that's even possible physically speaking, but
definitely.
My best race is a 257. So that's 17 minutes. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, but where did you run 257?
CIM.
That's a hard course.
Depends
From what
on
I've
who you
heard.
ask. People will say that it's it's all downhill, but it is not.
Yeah.
It was difficult in my opinion. I think it doesn't even compare to Chicago. Chicago, I was this is the easiest race of all time.
Have you ever worked with a coach?
No.
A running coach?
No.
So, wait, you did 257 just on your own?
Yeah.
I bet if you worked
Is
with
that
a coach.
surprising?
Yeah. I mean, it is, but not. I mean, knowing you, it's not surprising.
Okay. Hyping me up.
Yeah. I mean, to the average person, I mean, to break 3 without a coach is pretty impressive.
I don't know. Have you worked with a coach?
A couple, yeah.
Okay.
Do you know Will Nation?
No.
He's based here in Austin. He just ran Boston. He's a pro. So he was in the pro field, which is cool, in Boston yesterday. But
cool.
he's 2:15 marathoner.
Holy smokes.
Stupid fast. But I worked with him for my Boston last year, and then Chicago. He helped me a ton.
Okay.
Yeah.
You found it useful to have a coach?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think the programming, there's definitely a formula to marathons. And then just having a person to bounce ideas off of. Make sure you're not doing anything stupid.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because in my mind, probably having a coach is the better idea. But in my mind, I'm it's just miles. Just go and get them done. But
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong.
Do you ever do the big marathon workouts? That's what I call them.
What do you mean?
If it's a 20-mile workout, but you've got paces,
Yes.
intervals within the workout.
Yeah. So I'll do for my last training block for Austin, I did some speed worked into the long runs. So if I was doing 20 miles, it'd be 2 miles warm up, and then 4 miles at pace, and then a mile off, a mile chill, and then 4 more miles at pace, and just keep doing that until I finish the 20 miles.
Yeah, that's a good workout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you strength train?
I do very little. I do maybe twice a week, and I try to do 100 push-ups a day just to stay in shape, and then I do 2 to 3 days a week if I'm lucky. I'll do some kettlebell stuff.
Okay.
At home.
Yeah. For me, I think to prevent, because you said you hit the wall at 18.
Mm-hmm.
I think the strength training is one of the biggest things.
Really?
Just because the muscular endurance.
Interesting.
Yeah. Heavy strength training. There's a book called The Science of Running. Have you read that?
No.
It's very nerdy.
I'm getting educated
textbooky. But it talks about heavy strength training on your legs. It does something with the muscle fibers. It increases the muscle fiber pool size that your body can recruit from. So then when you get late into a race, you have more muscle fibers to recruit from. So you prevent cramping and prevent that bonking, because you have more energy, more muscle endurance. Yeah.
What do you when do you? I mean, I know you do strength training, but do you do it before or after a run, or when do you do that?
Usually on my speed days or long run days, I'll do my speed workout in the morning or long run in the morning, and then just in the afternoon I'll hit legs.
Dang.
Yeah. So then your legs are already tired, already beat down from the run, and then you go hit them in the gym.
And I mean, I imagine that helps prevent injury as well.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. What do you like? How long is the workout? If you've just done like a 20-mile run, how long is your workout afterwards?
Like less than 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just like heavy weights, squats.
Yeah.
Like
I really don't
lunges,
squat a whole lot. A lot of deadlifts.
deadlifts. Okay.
And then, cause like hamstrings, glutes. And then, yeah, Bulgarian split squats, lunges.
Interesting.
That's basically it. Box step ups, probably some of my favorites.
Okay. Weighted or
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You wear like a vest or?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
I have like a 20-pound vest I'll wear.
This all sounds very hard.
Dude. It is, but like I do the same thing every time basically.
Okay.
Because I'm not trying to get huge or like I'm not trying to get super strong. I'm just doing it for the running side of
Interesting.
things. So yeah, I think
I
it
mean,
helps.
my perception of you online is guy with a lot of muscle who also runs. That's my perception of you on like.
I'm not even that big though.
You're a lot bigger than me.
Not really. What do you weigh?
153, I think.
How tall are you?
5'7".
Okay, I'm 1 inch taller,
Okay.
and then I think I'm like 170.
Yeah. You're not that much bigger.
But not really. It's all in my core. I got a big core. I
Yeah,
think.
right. No. You got big shoulders, big arms.
No,
dude,
dude.
I have work to do.
It's all relative.
Maybe.
Dude, how long have you been running for?
I've been running on and off for like 10 years. So when I got married when I was 20. And when my wife and I got married, I found out that my sister-in-law, my now sister-in-law, and her husband were about to have run like their 10th marathon. And I was just like, there's no way that these people have just run 9 marathons and are about to run their 10th. Now they've run like 30. So they ran a lot more than I have. But in my mind, I was like, if they can run a marathon, then I definitely can. So I signed up for Duluth, like I think the year after my wife and I got married. So this would have been like 2015. So yeah, 9 or 10 years. And
Your first race was a marathon?
Mm-hmm. And I've been injured like throughout a couple times. One year I was supposed to run grandma's again, and I was in like a climbing accident. I like fell from like a bouldering wall, and I like messed up my ankle.
I was just filming a YouTube video.
No, it's just for fun. And yeah, so then I didn't run for like 2 or 3 years, I don't think, just because I got lazy, got kind of fat. And then I went on keto, lost a bunch of weight, and I was like, I should run again. And then I got back into the marathons. I got into ultras for a little bit. And like my first ultra marathon, which I ran like 4 years ago, it was a 55K, and I placed 3rd overall. And I was like, what? Like nobody's running these races, or they're like, maybe I'm good at this. So I started to run ultras, and then yeah, now I want to be fast and want to ultras. So it's like you want the perfect. I want to be like the best of both worlds. I want to be. Able
I
to
think
do
you
both.
can do both.
We'll see.
I think there's benefits to have like that top end speed for like a marathon, but then also the endurance that you get through an ultra.
Do you like running fast?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
But ultras I think are more enjoyable. Because it's like you can think a little bit more. It's slower. You're out there for longer. You're by yourself more.
Do you think, I mean, at least my perspective on it is like the ultra is so much more of a mind game. Because I feel like I have to play tricks on myself when I'm running an ultra.
Yeah.
Versus the marathon, it's just like it's a sprint. It's like go as fast as you can and don't even think about the pain. Just go. Like it's 2.5 hours to 3 hours. Like just run as fast as you can for 3 hours. Anybody can do anything for 3 hours.
Yeah, 100%. What do you tell yourself in a marathon or an ultra when it starts to get hard?
I don't know. Everybody else is hurting, so who cares? Like that's what I try to tell myself. Like, dude, the guy behind you is in just as much pain as you are, if not more. Like, suck it up and do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I tell myself. I'm like, just suck it up, man. Stop being a baby. What do you tell yourself?
That's a good take.
I mean, I follow rule number 3. I do. I follow rule number 3 when I'm running a race. Like, truly, mile 30, it's raining. You still have 20 left. It's muddy. Don't be a pussy, man. Just man up and do it.
That's good. Yeah, I don't want to think about that enough, probably, of like everybody else out here is hurting and they're still doing the same thing. They're still going. There's people ahead of you. There's people behind you, but we're all probably kind of feeling the same way. I should think about that more.
I think like, especially in a racing format, like for example, my last race was a 50 miler. And I remember at mile like 16 or 17, I was running with a friend and we came into an aid station and I asked them, I said, what place do you think we're in? And they said, there's about 16 runners ahead of you. And I was like, all right, 16. I wonder how many I can start to like knock down. And then it was like, I think I got to like the marathon and there was still about 14 ahead of me. I was like, wow, I didn't really knock that many down, but we're also getting to like the hard part of the race. And for the rest of the race, I kept telling myself, like, these guys that are in front of me, they're going to slow down. They're going to take longer at aid stations. They're going to eat more food and chill out. They're going to walk more. And I kept telling myself, like, they're going to do more of that than I am. And so when I pulled into an aid station, like my time started getting shorter. I was like, give me the food. Let's get out of here. And I think as long as you can just tell yourself that like they're hurting as much as you are, I think you can push yourself to be like on the like you can go on the edge, you know, like you can get ahead of them in that regard. At least it worked for me. I ended up working myself up to 4th place. So
Dang.
yeah. Although they did tell me I was in 3rd place, which was like a huge letdown because then I slowed down a ton. Like, note to self, don't slow down. I think I could have caught 3rd place, but I was like, oh, I'm in 3rd place. Who cares? And then I like my last 3 miles were like 14-minute miles.
Oh, man.
And I kind of screwed myself on that one.
I
but.
think one of my favorite TSP memories was when we were going down Powerline Road and you were out running. We're in the Jeep, like following behind you. And you could see a team in the distance and you just start pointing at them. Yeah. And you're like, we got to get them.
Yes.
We got to pick them up.
Dude, nothing makes me more stoked than that. Like, you see somebody like way out in the distance, it's like, game over, baby. You're mine. Like, you're mine. I'm going to take you down.
That's so good. That's how Pierce is too. He has that same, I don't think about that when I'm racing. I don't think about like trying to beat other people.
Really?
But I feel like that's such a good motivator. Because that's how Pierce is, dude. He like, I remember at one of the 200-mile races, he just started like sprinting past people. And he's like, I just saw these people. I had to pass them. I had to beat them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
I should lean into that some more.
I just think it's so motivating. Yeah. Like, especially during TSP when you see a team out like, I don't know, mile, 2 miles ahead of you, like way out in the distance. It's like, okay, now we got to track them down.
Right.
Because like, I won't be able to get that on my head. And every time I see them, I want them to be closer.
Yeah.
So until we finally pass them. And there's something so satisfying like about passing somebody in a race.
Yeah. Dang. Did you play sports growing up?
Not really. No. I mean, I was homeschooled, so we played a little bit. Like, I played a little bit of sports, like club sports, like soccer and stuff. Some private like clubs, and then just because we couldn't compete with the local schools where we were. But then once I got into like middle school, high school, didn't really compete in anything.
Yeah.
But my little brothers and my older brother and I, we played ultimate frisbee. So we would just get together a bunch of other homeschool kids and play ultimate frisbee in like a random field.
Dude, I feel like everybody should be homeschooled.
Dude, it's fun.
I wish I would have been.
Really?
Like,
this is a crazy take.
Dude, because there's maybe benefit to like, I don't know if there's many benefits now that I think about it. It's like maybe just being around a bunch of kids and stuff, but like, I don't think little kids should be sitting in a classroom like doing this curriculum of like, okay, now we're gonna do math and all. Like, dude, I don't remember after like elementary school stuff I don't remember anything I learned in like middle school, high school, like a few things, but you're just like following this like system and it doesn't really like do anything for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I saw like a reel the other day my wife sent me that was like what moms tell you like when like early 2000s. And I can legitimately remember, I love you, my mom, but I can legitimately remember my mom saying stuff like this. But like one of them was like, you're not always going to have a calculator around. And it's like, it's just not true.
Yeah.
You will always have a calculator around. Yeah. Like, I don't need to know like complex math equations. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
Because there will be a calculator and I will be able to use it.
Did you, like being homeschooled, were you able to like, okay, maybe we're going to learn some math and the alphabet and this kind of stuff, learn how to read and whatnot. But then did you have time of like, okay, you're interested in the piano, or you're interested in cameras, or you're interested in bugs. Let's go outside and look in the dirt. Like, was that the environment it was like?
No, that's a good question. It wasn't like formatted in a specific way. Like, we had curriculum that we went through. So we did have to do like the same things that it was just a different curriculum, but it was like the same things that everybody else had to do. So there were like state approved curriculum that you could use. So we did have like grammar or like, English and history and math and all those things. But we also definitely, if we finished or like if we finished up by like noon or like if we finished by 10 a.m., finished all of our homework, then it was like, oh, it's like free reign. So yeah, we did. I learned piano growing up. I was really into cameras, so my parents bought a camera and I was able to use that and then in different creative ways, which was really fun. And then I also felt like I had the opportunity to like go and experience things that if you were in school, you just wouldn't be able to. For example, one of my mentors when I was like in 14, 15 years old, he still is, but he was a director of like live shows. And so like a lot of concerts and stuff and festivals. And he went to our church and he had a family and he like took me and my brother under his wing and like, we're like, hey, do you want to come and help at these festivals and events and stuff? And so I learned how to use like a production camera and got to see him direct and like go to festivals and go to concerts and things. So that just wouldn't have been available to me had I been in regular school, just due to the fact that it was like, oh, this is going to be like on a Wednesday or something, it's like, oh, you can't go.
Dang.
So that was really cool.
That's cool. Are you, I guess you don't know what it would be like to go to public school, I guess, but like, are you happy that you're homeschooled?
Yeah. I said earlier on the podcast, I'm a high school dropout, so it didn't exactly work out the way that it was intended to. But I had some other, like, I had a traumatic brain injury, which like sort of stopped me from being able to finish school. Anyways, I liked being homeschooled. Like, if I'm thinking like my own kids, there's a lot of reasons that I wouldn't want to send them to public school, but I really highly doubt that my kids will go to public school unless there were some unique circumstance or a school that I really liked, just based off of how I see public school being like as an informed adult looking at how children are behaving in a public school environment.
Yeah.
I don't like the outcome of that.
Yeah.
And that's not like, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular. I'm just saying the actual outcome of like children in the public school system as of right now, doesn't matter if you're religious or anything like that, it looks terrible. Yeah. And like, I have family members who are teachers who would, agree with me. And so it's either like private school potentially, if we find a private school we really like, or homeschool. And that'll kind of be up to my wife as well. But like, I think homeschool was cool. And I think there's a way that you could do it that would be really fun and cool for your kids and for you, or for me. And it's not the same for everybody. Like, everyone's different. Some people would hate it. So.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because obviously I would say you're a very unique person. Like, you're a YouTuber. You've got all these like crazy ideas, or marathon and Crocs and filling up bathtubs with tablespoons and stuff. It's like the average person is not thinking of those things. Like, do you think that like you're just inherently like that and have these ideas and this like drive and passion, or do you think that kind of comes from, I guess it's like nature versus nurture. Like, do you think that could have come from not being in that like systematized public school environment? And
yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know. I've thought about this before. I actually have no idea. I think even if I look back to like when I went to college, the reason I didn't finish school wasn't because I wasn't good at it. I was fine in college. My grades were fine, but I was like dreading the idea of taking on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. That just scared the crap out of me. And so I dropped out of school specifically because I thought it was too expensive. And I just didn't go and find another school that was cheaper. Had I finished school and gotten a job, I think the social pressure of trying to start something and then watching it fail would have been too great. And I think I would have been a baby about it and just been like, that's too embarrassing. And there were times when it was embarrassing to be a creator for me, because I was putting out content that was like, maybe below me, if you will, or I would think people would think is below me. And your perception of what other people think of you as humans is deadly. Like, it can drive major decisions. And thankfully for me, I had a wife who was super supportive and was like, no, you're going to finish this. Because there were times that I wanted to quit. She was like, no, you said you're going to do it. Do it. I think that is insane. Like, at the age of 25, not making any money, and my wife's making all the income. Crazy that she was willing to do that. But yeah, there's a lot of, I don't think that it was like because I was homeschooled or because I was raised a certain way. I think some of it is innate, it's just in you that you want to do it. But there are other aspects, because had my wife been like, get a job, stop being a loser, I probably would have got a job. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's some luck involved to a certain degree, or like, I don't know, destiny, if you will, of like, this person is in your life. And for whatever reason, they're here and they're telling you to do something, and you value that opinion so much that you're willing to do it. I don't know.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that take.
Yeah.
What do your friends and family think now? The ones that were maybe like, you should not be a YouTuber, Isaiah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think this goes like, not to throw my parents under the bus, but there were definitely times where it was like, Isaiah, come on, what are you doing with your life? And I'm not saying that was all the time, but definitely felt some of like the, when are you going to get a job and grow up kind of thing. There's a lot of people that I'm sure thought that but that are now the people that are like, oh, I always knew you could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love my parents, but they'll say that. They'll be like, oh, I always knew you could do it. And I was like, it didn't feel like that when you said, Isaiah, why don't you have a job? But okay, if you say so.
Dang, that's tough.
So everybody wants to be your biggest fan when you've made it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure you feel some of that too, because
Yeah.
you didn't always have a podcast. You weren't always a creator on Instagram. Like, what led you to that? And like, did you feel the pressure of like, what do people think of me as I'm doing this? Or did you feel like you could just push beyond that?
That's a good question. I think, I don't know. I think I just always ignored it. Like, to be honest, I just never cared what anybody said.
Wow.
And so I was just like, fuck them.
Dang.
I'll just do it. I've just always had the mindset of like, do what you want to do. Who cares what anybody says? If you want to do something, just do it. It doesn't matter if it's your parents, your best friend, your spouse, whatever. If it's something that you want to do that's gonna like fill your soul up, just do it. Who cares what anybody else says? I've always just had that mindset. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe because
awesome.
I know, I think maybe because I see a lot of like either my parents or my friends' parents or friends that always say, oh, I'm so good at this thing, but I could never pursue it as a career, like an artist or music or like a chef or something. Like they're so good at the thing that they love, but they're too scared to go and do it. And I'm like, you can't do that. You got to just do it. Just go try it. If it doesn't work, then you're in the same spot you were before.
Yeah.
So why not try?
No, I love that.
Yeah. Dude, what's the big vision for Isaiah? The YouTube channel, the running. What is the grand Isaiah vision?
Dude, I think it's kind of boring now, actually. It's funny, but I mean, it's just the real answer. I think it's like, how long can I do this for? Because I think for a long time, it was like, prove you can do it. That for me, it was like prove to myself and then prove to everybody else that like what I set out to do was worth it and I did it. And so now I feel like I've achieved that. I'm happy with the place that I got to. So now it's like, how long can I do it for and continue to make enough money to survive, to hopefully build some wealth so that I can retire at some point. But I love making videos. So it's not like, oh, I want to stop making them. I'm not burnt out by any means, but I do know that when I'm like 40, 10 years from now, I'm going to want to hang out with my kids and like, you know, go to, games or whatever, cheer them on at their own things and like support them. So hopefully in like 10, 15, 20 years, I'm chilling and I don't have to think about it anymore. So the grand vision for Isaiah Photo is to continue to not necessarily build to be bigger, but like continue to put out content that people want to watch, be a good entertainer on the internet, as well as push myself. And I think running is allowing me to do that a lot. Like, and I want to continue to run for as long as humanly possible. So who knows, maybe I'll be that guy that's 60 and still running, but I think running has been so constant in my life, more than probably any other activity. No, definitely more than any other activity. And I'm finding now that I think I'm realizing as I'm getting older that I'm actually kind of good at it. And that's pretty fun. Like you think of anything you do, like if you're bad at something, it's not fun to do it. Like if you're playing a sport and you're bad at it, you're probably not going to play. But I think that because I am seeing that I'm kind of good at running, I'm like, oh, I should really lean into that. That sounds really fun.
Dude, do you think you'll ever go full like running creator, full running influencer?
I don't know. Time will tell. Time will tell. We kind of tried that on YouTube. It didn't work out that great. Granted, it was only a few videos, but we'll see. I mean, I definitely am pursuing that on Instagram specifically, but YouTube might just be its own thing, which is fine too. Like they're just different aspects of the business. And this comes back to like, I can't get emotional about it. I can't be like, I want to be a romantic, creative experience. It's like, no, this is a business at the end of the day. And if that means that we have to continue to operate the way that we've been operating on YouTube, but I can be more passionate about my personal experiences on Instagram, then that's perfect. I have an outlet for both of them. Yeah. And I still need to I'm still a business owner, still have to make money, still got to pay my employees, all those things.
Yeah. That's great, dude. I love that. Do you have how long have we been going for, by the way? What time is it? 12? What time did you get here?
10?
Oh,
15?
we're good. I got a few more questions.
Okay.
What was I even gonna ask? I don't even remember. What's a day in the life of Isaiah?
Day in the life.
You asked me this when we were plunging at Matt's house, and I never got to ask it back to you.
Dude, it's one of my favorite questions. I just like knowing like what is it? Because you meet all these people and I see different like aspects of their life online. But anyways, to answer your question, what is a day in the life? I typically wake up between 5 and 6, depending on how many miles I need to get in and what happens after that. But I'll wake up at around, this last week, I woke up every day around 5 simply because for some reason I needed to. And then I like to have time between my run and waking up for multiple reasons. One, I want to actually just be awake while I'm running, and I don't like just waking up and putting the shoes on and going.
Yeah.
So I like to make some coffee. I don't eat food before I run, so I make coffee. I'm a bit of a coffee nerd. I thought I was going to do coffee for my career, and now I don't, but I still love coffee. So I make coffee, and then I read my Bible. I spend some time, I'm trying to get through the whole Bible this year, so I'm spending some time reading my Bible, some time praying immediately after reading my Bible. At this point, it's probably around 6 a.m. Check up on all my socials to see like what's going on in the universe. What fires do I need to put out on YouTube? And then by like 7 a.m., I'm usually somewhere about to run or already running by 7 to 7:30. And usually I'm running. And then when I'm done running, probably get coffee again, whether that's going and grabbing some somewhere or making it back home. And then by like 10-ish, I'm usually at my computer. Like I've showered, I'm at my computer, either making content in the form of reels or shorts, or I'm getting on a phone call with somebody, whether that's my 2 employees or if it's like a potential sponsor or something like that, or my management team. And then I eat lunch. I've been having kind of the same thing every day lately, steak and eggs, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
I feel like I got some of that from you and from Bree, who is also on our TSP team. I like asking people what they eat.
People love. Do you make a lot of food videos?
No.
You should start. People love the food videos.
Maybe I will. Yeah. So then I eat lunch, and then my afternoon is either filming something with Isaac or back to my computer for a little bit. And then by like 3 or 4, I'm kind of starting to like, I don't know, just get lazy. And at that point, I'm playing with like my daughter or like going on a walk with my wife or something and my daughter. And then dinner time, I typically eat at home with my wife and baby. And so I like to cook. So I'm the cook in the house. Like I usually cook dinner, whatever it is.
Nice.
Sometimes I ask my wife to do it, but usually I do. And then
you chefed it up the other night.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Bibimbap.
Bibimbap. It took me a minute to figure out how to say it.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Bibimbap.
Dude, it's so good though.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. And then after that, baby goes to bed and I'm probably on the couch watching Netflix with my wife.
Nice.
Yeah.
You watch more Netflix together?
Yeah. Well, it kind of depends on the streaming service. We usually watch like a TV show or a movie. And sometimes we go through phases. Like we were watching a lot of movies a few weeks ago. And like I get on like a movie kick. I like watching movies. And then right now we're watching a lot of White Collar for some reason.
What is that?
It's like a it's a TV show about like a guy who's like a convict, but he's helping the FBI.
Oh, interesting.
It's pretty entertaining and it's light. Like, you know, like some shows like have you ever seen Blacklist? I guess kind of a similar concept, but that one's like pretty dark.
Okay.
Like some really like intense like imagery throughout. But White Collar is just kind of like, it's like candy. It's like fun to watch and like all the episodes are the same and you get to watch them like crack cases and stuff. But I'm a huge Office fan. If it's up to me, we watch The Office 24/7. Like I've seen that show through all 9 seasons probably 30 times.
Yeah,
like love it.
Same. It's so good. It's just the best.
It is.
It's like therapy.
Yes.
It's so good.
Dude.
I hope they do some sort of like reboot or something at some point. Like,
really? I kind of hope they don't.
Part of me wants to. Part of me is like, just leave it alone. Let it be.
Yeah.
But I think maybe like a 1 episode just to like see what that'd be like.
Yeah.
Maybe
I mean,
not.
I would tune in. I mean, I say like don't do it, but I would watch.
Yeah. What do you watch for movies?
I like a lot of different types of movies, honestly. We went through like watching Tarantino films because I watched we watched one of them. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, we need to watch all of them. And so I think we only have 2 left, 2 of his more obscure ones. I can't remember the names of them, but we recently watched Hateful Eight.
Oh, it's so good.
That one really reminded me a ton of his what's the I'm gonna forget the name of it. Gosh dang it.
Is it a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie. It's his movie.
Django?
Not Django. That's a great one.
Reservoir Dogs?
Reservoir Dogs. It reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah.
Of that movie. Like kind of like one scene.
Yeah. It's all in the same
And,
spot.
Yeah. But I think Tarantino's awesome.
He's my favorite director.
Yeah, he's so good. So different from like what you get served now. And like movies now kind of suck.
Yeah.
But like we recently saw Dune, which I loved. I
need to see that.
Yeah, Dune's great. I read the books, so that made it more fun for me.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I think movies now are just kind of, they're getting lamer as they like I recently watched there's one with Jake Gyllenhaal that just came out on Amazon.
Was it
It's a remake.
The Roadhouse
Yes.
with Conor McGregor?
Just terrible movie.
Really? I haven't seen it.
It's just so bad. Like it's like how is it this bad? Like how is Jake Gyllenhaal in this bad of a movie? It just kind of makes
He's
you
usually
sad.
good.
Yeah.
Dang.
And to be fair, he was definitely the best actor in the movie in terms of like acting performance, but the movie itself is just like, I feel like they did him dirty.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, this is kind of sad that you're in this.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that Conor McGregor's in it makes me like, why is he
And
in
Conor
this?
McGregor is just not a good actor.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like 2 good movies a year now that I get excited about.
What's like your top 5-ish?
Oh gosh. The Hateful Eight might be on there actually. I love The Hateful Eight.
Dang.
Or some Quentin Tarantino movie, maybe Django,
Django's good.
Inglourious Bastards.
Do you
Those are
like
also
Kill
good.
Bill?
I like Kill Bill. Yeah. My all-time favorite always has been. Have you seen Miracle? About the 1980 hockey team?
My dad would love that. Like,
Dude.
let you love that movie. It's so
Did
funny.
he play hockey?
No, but he just loves that movie.
It's so good. A lot of those guys are from Minnesota.
It's crazy.
The most of them.
Hockey players.
I love Friday Night Lights.
Mm.
I love a good underdog story. Yeah, those are probably my top I can think of right now. I love Interstellar, Oppenheimer. I loved Oppenheimer.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan is probably my favorite
Yeah.
director. Just like the creativity that goes into his movies is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like, there's aspects of it that people don't understand that's happening that is a part of the creative process. Like even just the fact that he shoots on film for all of his movies is really cool. Like I love photography and like shooting film photography, and so seeing video on film is really fun. Yeah, that movie was great. Oppenheimer's great. Tenet's great.
What's your top 5?
I mean, I think up there is like Walter Mitty. I
Oh,
love Walter
dude.
Mitty.
That one makes me just want to go like travel the world.
Yeah, it's like it's aspirational.
Yeah,
like
very
I think
much.
it's hard to make an aspirational piece of content.
Yeah.
Usually, you can make somebody feel some sort of way, but Walter Mitty makes me want to do something.
Yeah.
Like there's not very many movies that make me want to do something.
I love that one.
Yeah,
I
one's
feel like it's
great.
underrated. I don't hear a lot of people talk about that movie.
Yeah, that one's up there. I also like comedy quite a bit, and
Yeah.
I grew up watching it's like kind of some of the older comedy movies. So like What About Bob? I don't know if you ever heard of that one. Bill Murray.
I've heard of it, never seen it.
Yeah, it's just so funny, and the writing it's insane how good the writing is for that movie. And I don't know a whole ton about like the aspects of writing and directing and those different aspects of movies, but what I've learned from my film guy Isaac, my camera guy, he just talks a lot about like the writing and stuff, and it makes me realize more and more that like movies are so dependent, like the movie being good is so dependent on the writer and how good the writing is, even just down to like the acting and the aspects of acting. Like if it's bad writing, you can just tell on screen.
Yeah.
And so I just think like there's something really cool about watching a movie and be like, wow, that was just so good.
Yeah, dude. It's those movies where you leave and you're like, you kind of forget you're in a movie. You
Yeah.
just like, you're fully immersed into this universe.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah. So good.
Dude.
Movies.
Oh, we could do a whole podcast on movies,
Yeah.
I think. Okay. A couple more questions I'm very curious about. Mr. Beast, right?
I do.
How has your interaction been with him? Or that
It's been great.
relationship?
Jimmy's like I think he's the kind of guy that's just the best at what he does. And I think specifically because he's just willing to push himself to like the limits that people just aren't. And I mean we see that in like different people like physically, like somebody might be able to like run further or, you know, lift heavier weights, those kind of things. But like Jimmy just wants to be the absolute best at YouTube, and he's so focused on it that it is inspiring. But it's interesting because like watching Jimmy and seeing him in person and seeing his setup and like being there multiple times to see like how do they run this show, those kind of things, like I have zero interest as a YouTuber, as an individual, to have anything remotely close to what he has. And I mean, he would say that he would encourage nobody to do what he does. You know what I mean? He says that on podcasts. You hear him say like, don't try to be like me. And I think he's just built something absolutely massive that is, I think, at a point where he can't quit. And there's danger in that, I think, for just a human, like on a human level. I think it's like dangerous for anyone to get to that point where you can't leave. So, I mean, huge respect for the guy. I think he's a visionary. I think he'll probably go down in history as, you know, one of the greatest YouTubers of all time. Well, he will. And I think it will be near impossible to match him. People say like, who's the next Mr. Beast? I just don't know if there is one, because he's just different in that way.
Interesting. So it's just the drive.
Yeah. He's just, if you were with him in a room and like, he only really cares about one thing. It's YouTube. You wouldn't be able to talk to him about something else. And if you did, his attention is like, no more. You know, if you're like, hey, what do you think about, you know, NASA? He'd be like, how can we make a YouTube video with them? Like, that's all that would matter. It wouldn't be like, well, yeah, it is interesting. They went to do this and that, whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter.
When I heard him on Rogan's podcast, that was my biggest takeaway, was like, because Rogan would try and like go down these tangents like he does, you know, like just talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And Jimmy would just have nothing to add unless it was talking about YouTube, which is, I don't know, is that the price you have to pay, you think, to like be the best at what you do?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think so. But I don't know. It's not like it's funny because he's not on the internet a very well-rounded individual. If you think about Jimmy, like, what do we know about him? I don't even really know much of his interests. I think he likes basketball. I played basketball with him.
Oh yeah. I've heard he's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, he's good at basketball. He likes it. But aside from that, it's like YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he watches movies. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or these like visionaries that changed the world. But I don't know if anybody should actually envy that lifestyle.
Yeah, I certainly don't.
Yeah, damn. Well, that's cool, dude. This has been great. And last thing I'm curious about. You met The Rock, right?
I did.
How was that?
Actually, that was hugely that was all possible because of Jimmy, because he was going to go shoot a video with The Rock, and his team was like, Isaiah, you got to come with because you're trying to beat The Rock, blah, blah, blah. We'd already passed him in subscribers, but it was a really funny experience because I had told Jimmy, I was like, Jimmy, I am going, he told me first, he was like, you can do whatever you want after I play rock, paper, scissors, but they do not know that you're here, nor are they going to approve you doing anything with him. So this is completely on you. You have to make the move, and you're going to have like a 1/100th of a second to like make the move, because it was on a red carpet event that he was walking down very quickly. And Jimmy had like, I think max 2 minutes with him. Like that was like, you have 2 minutes, get it done, get out. And so him and Jimmy and his team and I were there on the red carpet waiting for The Rock to come around. Here comes The Rock. Jimmy does his thing. And right as The Rock is finishing up with Jimmy, they're pretty much like mid-sentence saying goodbye. I like swoop in. I take my moment, which if I had waited any longer, it's over, and I missed my opportunity. And I went to New York specifically for this one tiny bit. And I was like, Mr. Rock, one more game of rock, paper, scissors. And it would have been really satisfying had I won, but I lost. I think my experience with him was that he probably hated me in the moment. He was probably like, who the heck is this guy? Why is he in my face right now? And leave me alone.
That's so funny.
But yeah, he was gracious enough to finish the rock, paper, scissors and put a good face on it, even though he was not supposed to play rock, paper, scissors with me. And it looked like a camera guy, because I was holding a camera and then I just gave it to somebody and walked in, which was the plan. But he probably was like, why is the camera guy trying to play rock, paper, scissors with me right now? But yeah.
That's so funny.
It was cool.
It's in a video, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to go watch it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's in the video. I lose. Spoiler alert. rock, paper, scissors to the rock. However, he played paper, which, come on. And he played scissors and I played paper. Because like our whole joke leading up to it was like paper beats rock.
Yeah.
And so I was always going to play paper, but he didn't know who I was. But the fact that he didn't play rock is like, come on. Man. You're the rock. You got to play rock.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been a blast, man.
Yeah. Thanks for
coming
having
on.
me.
Thanks for chatting.
The Jeremy Miller Podcast.
Dude. It was the Isaiah podcast today. The Isaiah photo experience. But this is your first ever podcast.
First ever.
What do you think?
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. It's fun. It's like you're just chatting.
Would you ever start a podcast for yourself?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't know if I'm the best conversationalist.
You did pretty good today.
Well, you were asking all the questions.
Wow. I guess.
You're a great host, Jeremy.
Oh, thank you. I was just fishing for a compliment.
Your dogs. I'll come just for your dogs.
Dude, they are really just part of the experience. But dude, thanks for coming on. Where's the best place if people want to connect with you, ask you questions, or
Instagram.
Mm-hmm. And it is, what's your handle? Just Isaiah Photo?
Isaiah Photo.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mr. Photo, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I feel like crack a Miller.
Like a Miller Lite.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we go for a run?
Let's do it. I'm ready. Right. I'm hungry for miles.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you in the next one.